Hello, everybody. David Schuster here. MAGA world is melting down in epic fashion. Trump supporters are literally flipping out over Joe Biden's decision to change his mind and issue a pardon to his son Hunter. The pardon covers Hunter's gun charge and tax-related allegation, but Republicans are convinced, despite years of finding no evidence, that the Biden family is engaged in a wide-ranging criminal financial conspiracy.
It is a complete and utter failure by the head of the Democratic Party and the President of the United States. Never again do I want to hear, oh, Donald Trump's a liar. You can't believe anything he says. Donald Trump will abuse his power. Donald Trump will only use the system to benefit himself and his family and so on and so forth. Never again. I have one question for Karen, and that is, why did he need an 11-year blanket pardon going back to 2014 when Joe Biden was the vice president? We are sitting on the biggest cover-up of who knows what crimes, and Joe Biden amazingly knows exactly, roughly, when it started. He knows just about when it all started.
Did you notice Democratic analyst Karen Finney laughing at Republican Scott Jennings? That is a healthy way to try and deal with Republican hypocrisy. And the hypocrisy on the GOP side runs deep. Keep in mind that Donald Trump is a convicted felon. He was found guilty of 34 charges involving the falsification of business records to try and cover up hush money payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels, who Trump allegedly had an affair with. In Trump's E. Jean Carroll defamation case, Trump was found to be an adjudicated rapist. In his first administration, Donald Trump pardoned his former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, who had been sentenced to 7 years in prison for financial crimes. Trump pardoned Republican operative Roger Stone, who had been sentenced to 3 years in prison for obstruction of the investigation into Russian election interference. Trump pardoned 4 Blackwater contractors convicted of massacring 14 innocent civilians in Iraq. Trump pardoned a lawyer who pleaded guilty to special counsel Robert Mueller. Trump pardoned former advisor Michael Flynn, who had been caught lying to the FBI about Russian election interference. Trump also pardoned daughter Ivanka's father-in-law, Charles Kushner, who pleaded guilty to 18 counts of tax evasion and witness tampering. Kushner served 2 years in prison in a case that former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie called one of the most loathsome and disgusting crimes Christie ever prosecuted as U.S. attorney. Trump recently named Charles Kushner as the U.S. ambassador to France. The French say the nomination is an insult, and Democratic strategist Karen Finney says the Republican whining over the Hunter Biden pardon is an insult as well.
Crowing from Republicans, and I know my dear friend Scott will have plenty to say about this, but we're talking about, Donald Trump is a convicted felon who literally had pardoned his daughter's father-in-law and just made him ambassador to France. So if we're going to talk about, who's using what system in what fashion, let's put it all on the table and let's be honest about the fact that Donald Trump doesn't really have a leg to stand on.
Of course, Republican intellectual honesty might as well be a misnomer. And many Republican political leaders and strategists do not seem to have any shame. So a lot of folks in the GOP, well, they keep screeching about the Bidens, perhaps in the hopes that the public will forget, even for a few seconds, the GOP's silence about Donald Trump. Thankfully, many Democrats are not staying silent. Here's former prosecutor and current member of Congress, Dan Goldman, on CNN.
I find it pretty ironic and hypocritical that so many Republicans have seemed to find the rule of law to Joe Biden's pardoning of Hunter and are happily ignorant of the rule of law when it comes to Donald Trump and everything that he has done.
Ignorant is a good word because it's not as if all of the Republicans or their supporters are stupid. Instead, many are fed a steady diet of misinformation and conservative propaganda. And the result is the GOP's selective outrage and a level of ignorance that might have been unimaginable before the advent of Fox News. And in some ways, ignorance is more dangerous to a society than stupidity because stupid people can get an education and acquire enlightenment. Ignorant people resist learning, and the ignorant are often beyond help. Anyway, back to the Biden pardon. Some Democrats are saluting the president for helping his son. They note that Hunter Biden's firearm form violation came without aggravating factors like use of the gun in a crime. And in that situation, violators are almost never brought to trial on felony charges. Likewise, people who are late paying their taxes because of addictions but eventually pay their debts to the IRS are typically given non-criminal resolutions. But Hunter Biden was treated differently, and ending the miscarriage of justice is a welcome step, according to Democrat Jasmine Crockett.
So for anyone that wants to clutch their pearls now because he decided that he was going to pardon his son, I would say take a look in the mirror, because we also know that when it comes to this cabinet has more people accused of sexual assault than any incoming cabinet probably ever in the history of America. So we are living in unprecedented times, and we know that this was completely political. As someone who serves on the Oversight Committee, this was gamesmanship the entire time.
Gamesmanship, indeed, because I think most Americans know that if Hunter Biden's dad was an ordinary citizen, Hunter Biden would have never been prosecuted. And again, keep in mind that for the past 3 years, Republicans have scrutinized Hunter Biden's business dealings and transactions with his family, and the GOP has found no evidence of any crimes. There was no evidence of crimes on Hunter Biden's stolen laptop, despite the conservative media feeding frenzy. There has been no evidence from any witnesses or documents. The only alleged crimes were Hunter Biden improperly filling out a gun application and Hunter Biden failing to pay some of his taxes on time. President Biden's pardon of Hunter is not the scandal that conservatives insist. And it's not going to destroy President Biden's legacy, as a few Democrats have argued. President Biden's legacy was already diminished by staying in the 2024 campaign as long as he did, essentially kneecapping Democratic chances of beating Donald Trump. The U.S. political world, which is increasingly a turnoff to most Americans, would do all of us a favor by putting the Hunter Biden pardon in perspective. It's not a big deal. But the over-the-top reaction has revealed the total hypocrisy of the GOP. That Republican hypocrisy and shamelessness, they are the real stains in America today. By the way, Donald Trump is now getting blocked by the FBI. The FBI and its director, Christopher Wray, are standing firm in Wray's intention to stay on, even though Donald Trump wants to replace Wray with MAGA firebrand Kash Patel. And so the only way Patel can take over as FBI director as if Donald Trump breaks the law. More on that in a moment. But first, as the CBS News headline says, Trump's decision to tap Kash Patel for FBI director sends shockwaves through Washington. Several Republican senators believe Patel will not have the votes to get confirmed. Here's the reporting from NBC's Jonathan Lemire.
Kash Patel, perceived by many to be deeply dangerous because he has indeed, as you note, no qualifications for this job. Many of Trump's former aides said as much 4 years ago. But Patel, I'm told, and I'm talking to people in the orbit the last couple of days, there is no ideology. There's no agenda here other than retribution. Patel's one defining characteristic is that he is simply loyal to Donald Trump. And even inner circle Trump members of the last few years have been startled by Patel's willingness to simply do whatever Trump wants.
Check out that video at the link below. I'm David Schuster. Thanks for joining us.